With us here on Six News, former Senator for Queensland, Gerard Rennick. He is the founder and leader of the People First Party. Thanks very much for coming back on.
Yeah, hi Leo. Good to be here.
So you were defeated at the election. You had only formed the party about a year prior. That was obviously after you lost LNP pre-selection, and your efforts to return to that pre-selection and return to the LNP ticket, they were unsuccessful. We've discussed that before. Just on that campaign, though, because we were covering it, we spoke to you. You were in that minor party Senate debate. How do you feel about it, given all the, I guess, circumstances and the challenge of obviously you would have realistically, it was either going to be you or Malcolm Roberts getting in. How did you feel about how the campaign went for both your own re-election efforts and the party as a whole?
Oh, I think the campaign went very well for People First. I mean, it's incredibly hard to get off the tarmac when you're a minor party. And, if you look at the result, the One Nation got in the Senate. Malcolm Roberts got 7.1% after being in a party that's been around for 30 years. And we got basically 4.8% after being around for 5 months. So, I personally was very pleased with the result in the Senate. We averaged around 1.5% in other states, which was a good effort given that really we didn't have much of a ground game there. We just didn't have the time and the resources. But in Queensland, we had just about manned every booth in pre-poll. Bob Catter and a number of other politicians are extremely impressed at just how many people we got out. And that's what inspired me to keep the party going, because we do have a very active and enthusiastic membership that is willing to get out there and do the hard yards to build a party and to push our solutions, which we believe are the best of any party in Australia.
What kind of membership were you looking at there numbers wise? Obviously, you were able to get registered by virtue of being an elected member of parliament in 2024. What are the numbers looking like? Have they grown since the federal election?
Yeah, so we've grown by about 800 since the federal election. We had about 2,400 at the federal election. We're now up to 3,200. So that's good, given that we're no longer a parliamentary party and we don't have any publicity, or we don't get any mainstream media attention. This is just basically through word of mouth. So we intend to keep growing. And it will be slow and it will be hard going. But good things come to those who wait, and I'm committed certainly for the next 3 years, if not the next 6 years, to keep advocating for good policy, and this is probably just as important, if not more important, is to actually lift the level of corporate governance inside parties in general, particularly on the conservative side, although Labor has very poor corporate governance as well. And I want to continue to raise the issue about parties and how the legal system doesn't hold political parties to account in regards to upholding their own constitution. That's incredibly important, because if we have a party system that doesn't have to follow its own rules, why on earth would we expect politicians to go to Canberra and then follow the rules expected from parliamentarians? And it's extremely hypocritical for these people to be imposing laws on others when they won't uphold their own laws. So they're the things that we want to highlight as well, because I think that One Nation has squandered the last 25 years. Yes, they've started branches this year, but that was only after People First did. And Pauline had been serious about trying to fix many of the issues she claims she cares about. She would have been working on numbers long before now, because something I realised when I was in Parliament was, doesn't matter how rational the debate is, if you don't have the numbers, you don't have the numbers. And that's what we will be focusing on at People First, and that will hopefully involve merging with some other minor parties, and so that we can start pooling our resources more efficiently.
In terms of merging, that's been something talked about on the Australian right for some time. As again, was something we spoke about during the minor party Senate debates, and it is also something One Nation has been vehemently against, other than to say that other parties should join them, less than that they join others. Have you actually been able to have any formal talks, any roundtables with these parties? Because there are a lot, and it does feel to me, even after the election, that we just keep seeing more parties pop up and people having ideas for more parties. I've seen 3 different Reform Australia parties show up in the past 6 months. What do merger discussions at all look like since the election?
Yeah, good question, Leo. So we've had discussions. We went to, well, a number of minor parties flew to Sydney on, I think, around August the 19th, August the 20th. And that involved Family First, the Libertarians, ourselves, the Citizens Electoral Party, the Heart Party, and thanks to Michael O'Neill for organising it. A few of us are still in discussions about merging, and hopefully something will come out of that very soon. It won't be anything that's going to knock the lights out, I should add. One Nation didn't go. They sent a letter stating that they're no longer a minor party, they're a major party. And, in many respects, they are. They get the publicity of a major party. They're now included in national polls, which, matters because if you're being so, and this is why I think while One Nation, there's no doubt their popularity has increased since the election. There is a polling bias in that because there's only four parties given in a poll, which is obviously the Liberal, the Coalition, Labor, Greens, and One Nation, and then the rest is other. So I've had members actually call me to say they were polled, and they've actually got to say other and then name people first. So I mean, One Nation want to play that they're a major party. Good luck to them. And look, if they keep going, to be fair, if they go above 18%, if they get another 3%, I said this last night, and the coalition lose another 3%, they will be starting to pit the coalition. And the way the coalition are going, they might be coming to the minor party talks not too distant future. But yeah, so look, we want to do that. The other big elephant in the room, of course, is Clive Palmer. One of the reasons when I set up the People First Party was that I was under the impression that Clive wouldn't run again because UAP had been deregistered. Now turns, he subsequently went and joined forces with Trumpeter Patriots, and they got 3.8% of the Senate vote up here in Queensland. There's a fair chance I would have got a fair chunk of that had Clive not run, which would have taken me, narrowed the gap considerably with One Nation. So that's the other elephant in the room, because if Clive Palmer doesn't run, you'll open up, there'll be 2 or 3% of the people that vote for him that will go to other parties as well. So we need to merge with the other minors. There's three parts to this. There's the other minors, of which we call them, if you want to call them micros, fair enough. There's One Nation, and then there's the Palmer element as well. And so all of those, in my view, need to roll into a new party. The reason why we won't join One Nation is we don't trust the corporate governance inside One Nation. They haven't released their accounts. We don't know, just how much money Pauline puts in or takes out of the party. Likewise for James Ashby, I think, we don't know who the state executive is. It's all very secretive. They don't give their members a vote. We just saw that in New South Wales, appointment of a New South Wales senator by Pauline, who was effectively a Queensland staffer. That's not very democratic. And if we want to see the political process improve, the members of the party have to have a say in how their parties run. Because if they don't have a say in how their party is run and who gets to represent them in Parliament, well, then that basically, and we've seen this in the LNP, is the fact that when they decide not to, follow the values of the party, if don't have to face their members in a pre-selection, they can get away with doing whatever they like. And this is where I believe the Liberal Party is broken down. And we saw that in October 21, where Morrison broke his promise not to sign up to net zero. The New South Wales members were quite rightly upset about this. They wanted to kick out some sitting members, in particular Susan Ley and Alex Hawke. The New South Wales Liberal Party executive protected them. And then when it went to court, the courts upheld the view that the executive didn't have to give their members a say. Well, if you're not going to have accountability in your own party, then the federal members can do whatever they like, and they'll basically be controlled by the party apparatchiks rather than the grassroots members.
There are about three state elections coming up the next 18 months. I know the South Australian registration cutoff has happened. Any updates, People First, for Vic 26 or New South Wales 27?
We're aiming for Vic 26. We won't be ready for New South Wales 27. We fell just short of the 750 members in New South Wales. We may still be able to merge with a party there. That's not out of the cards. But I was also uncomfortable. Yet again, this is one of the rules the majors make to make it very difficult for minors to register, is that the 750 members had to put their name on a public register that could be viewed by anyone. And I personally felt very uncomfortable about that because we've got, people, well, a lot of our members have careers, they work. And if someone wanted to expose them as being a member of the People First Party and then have that held against them, and that does happen, it could have damaged their career. So anyway, there's one or two other options there to get registered for New South Wales. It would be good to do that, but at this stage we're not.
We'll stay on that. Curious with the coalition, and obviously you're a member of the coalition for some time in Parliament. It's very obvious the decline in their support in virtually any single opinion poll, notwithstanding One Nation's rise. The kind of saviour I hear some within the LNP talk about is Andrew Hastie, who is obviously being talked about as a leadership contender for some time. He doesn't seem to be going for it at the moment. Doesn't look like we're getting certainly any spill before Christmas this year. But I'm curious, what do you think of him and whether he could undo the damage that some may say is happening right now under Susan Lay's leadership?
Yeah, look, I have a lot of time for Andrew. We got on very well in Parliament. He was always very good to me, and I respect him for that, because other colleagues weren't necessarily I knew would sort of sneer and snigger or whatever, but Andrew was never one of those people. I definitely think he can undo some of the damage. The problem is, and this is the problem with the Liberal Party, while the moderates continue to undermine the Liberal Party, and they have been doing this now for decades, I even with the best intentions from Andrew, he will be ultimately white-handed by the moderates, because the moderates, that's what they do. They're effectively, controlled by the lobbyists. They don't listen to their members. They represent, well, I don't even know. I was going to say they represent a small portion of their electorate, but to be fair, the moderates up here in Queensland, they're not representing anyone who thinks like them in Queensland. They basically just jumped on the ship, maybe by a few inner city liberals from Sydney and Melbourne. So that is my concern with the Liberal Party. My other concern with the Liberal Party is their corporate governance. It has become a top-down party. Their active grassroots membership has all but been silenced. And we saw that, I've pointed this out already, Matt Camazzulli and myself have proved that with the party. So unless the party becomes a genuine grassroots membership, step one, and step two, I think they need to get the moderates out of the parliamentary wing altogether. They're going to struggle even with Andrew. But look, Andrew is certainly, the best chance of the Liberal Party restoring some of their fortunes. I won't say, I personally think the brand damage now is so great that they will struggle to get back to the low 40s or even the high 30s at this rate. Actually, interestingly enough, if they're at 24% now, they'll do well just to get back into the 30%. So, good luck to Andrew if he does decide to run. I think if he went now, it'd be a poison chalice, because he's still 2 years out from the next election. And the other thing that's really critical with the Liberal Party membership, not only is it declining, the average age of the members up here in Queensland, for example, the median age, so in other words, is 72. So in other words, 50% of party members are older than 72. So there's a real dearth of what I call, doers on the ground. There will be, if there's not already, well, there is already, of people that'll get out and actually campaign for the party. And that's in contrast to, say, the Teals, who, let's face it, have been the most successful party in the last decade. I think they've got something like 7 or 8 lower house members now. So, and if they decide to run in the Senate, they will eat up the Liberal Party vote there as well. The last thing, actually, you could literally form a pincer movement whereby if the Teals ran in the Senate, One Nation are increasing in the Senate, the Liberals could lose, could end up with 1 senator per state. They're down from 3 to 2. The Teals could quite possibly knock out another senator if they decided to run a Senate candidate and take the Liberals down from 2 to 1. And if that's the case, they're going to be on very, very shaky ground.
Gerard Rennick, we'll continue to follow the party and hope to catch up again in the future. Thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Leo. Have a great day.